Now, if you've ever watched my channel before, you'll probably know that I get a little bit excited about watches. I just love them so much, and I do get excited, but there are different levels of excitement. There's excited, there's very excited, and there's very, very excited. And I have to say, today, when this Vario watch arrived, that excitement level was at the upper level. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches. And I'm talking about a watch today that has really excited me. In fact, it arrived a few days ago, and it is the only watch that has been on my wrist ever since that day that it arrived. And I thought that it was going to be a good watch, but it has actually surprised me just how good it is. And I probably shouldn't have been surprised because it is a watch from Vario. And I've owned a lot of products from Vario in the past, but mostly it's been their straps, and they've been great straps, and I use them and I continue to use them all the time. I expected it to be a reasonable watch as well because I actually like the company too. The couple that run this company are lovely and they're really good to communicate with. So I should have really expected this watch to be great. And I also knew that I would probably like it because I like the design language of their watches. But as I've always looked through their range of watches, there's been one that has stood out to me, and it has been on my wish list to buy for some time. But the reason I haven't pulled the trigger is because I have a lot of watches at the moment and I do have to space out those purchases. But when Vario reached out to me a week or so ago and said, hey, would you like to check out one of our watches? Well, I thought that was a great opportunity to get this watch in hand, and I then get to keep it as well. That is why you would have seen that sponsored icon pop up, and I'm going to leave links in the description of this video taking directly to the Vario website. But what surprised me so much about this is not that I liked the watch, not that it was a good watch, it is the fact that this watch is actually something very special. If I knew it was going to be this good, I probably would have ordered it earlier, but it has only been on my wrist for a few days now, and because it has stood out to me so much, I wanted to share with you those things that have really stood out to me at this point in the ownership of this watch. So let's flip the camera around and let me point out to you those things in a first impressions style video that have really stood out to me. So I was very excited to see what was going to come from Vario because I've really enjoyed their straps before. I've had a bunch of them in my collection for some time. They're well made, they're lovely, really nice to utilize. But seeing one of their watches in the flesh, well, that's a little bit exciting. And it's their trench watch, their 1918, that has been the one that has really stood out to me the most. And I got the 40mm version. There are a couple of different size variations for this trench. Comes with a very nice polishing cloth too. And it comes in this travel case. This is one of those hard cases, so you know that the watch will arrive safe and actually be something that you can utilize again. And then when the watch did actually arrive and I unpackaged it and I looked at it, I can say there were 5 things that really stood out to me. The first was actually the straps that came with it. I know they're thrown in a couple of extras for me, which I really appreciate, but because this watch has fixed lugs, I was wondering about what I was going to be able to use as a different strap if I wanted to. And this one has these interesting sort of clip-on ones, so they're going to be able to clip on, which is nice. And there's a single pass NATO made of that really nice sort of leather, which I love this particular cognac style color, which is why I chose it for the original sort of bond strap, which is the one that it comes with. And it surprised me before the second reason as well is purely just how much I'm enjoying this particular strap. I thought I would be changing it over to a more of a sort of obvious sort of style, or more of original style, or trying to figure out something else, or possibly even taking this backing off and just leave it on this. But no, I'm really enjoying it as it is. But when I was actually looking at the watch itself, I was a little bit astounded by the black color of this dial. I don't think I quite expected it to look like this. It has a inky black, almost enamel look to it. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on this particular watch, on this dial, how it's done, and start utilizing some macro footage because that stood out. It's obvious when you see it in person that that black dial is not a standard black dial. There is something else occurring with that to give it this inky look. I also don't think I was expecting this case to be so curvy. It has a lovely look to it with that sort of breaking up between the polished bezel, that brushed sort of curved side, and there's sort of bit of a different sort of surface on that case back as well, but it has this lovely curved shape to it, which feels lovely, and it obviously suits this style of watch too. Whilst I got that off, let me just quickly show you the case back as well. Obviously this is a trench watch that is sort of reflecting on sort of World War One. It even says 11/11/1918 there, which is Armistice Day, isn't it? And there is a soldier there from the trenches with the little poppies and his rifle. And I should have expected this because of my amazing experiences I've had with all the different straps. And there's a reason why I've gone back to them again and again to buy straps, because they're so well made. But of course, that's going to translate to a very well made watch as well. I'm not quite sure what I was expecting from the quality of these watches. I was expecting it to be good, but this is a lot better than I even expected. And perhaps I should have expected them to be better, but this is really lovely. I'm really impressed by the quality of this watch, the design of this watch, and just how it then translates in hand and then onto your wrist. And I think that's a bit of the problem with some of these sort of brands, these micro brands. You don't get the opportunity to get hands-on with them, because if I had had the opportunity to get hands-on with this one when it came out, when I was initially excited about it, but then chose not to get it. But if I'd had that hands-on experience with it, if I'd been able to go to a store, pick it up, I would have made that purchase straight away, because this is absolutely lovely. And I can foresee it being in my collection for a while now. And I can foresee me wearing it on this bund as well, which that is a shock to me. I thought I'd be swapping it out because I've had previous experiences with these and I've always never really connected with them. But maybe it's because of the style of the watch, maybe because it's the quality of the strap itself, but it really suits it. My wife's even pointed it out that it looks really good, and she particularly likes it too. So that's interesting, because she doesn't always comment on my watches, and she particularly likes this one in this setup with this strap. So I'll be definitely circling back to this one with a full in-depth review in a couple of months, once I've really got to know it, and that I feel like I've really got the ability to point out some of the really good, interesting aspects of it that you really only get once you've worn a watch for some time. But whilst we wait for that full review of this amazing Vario trench watch, which I am really liking, well, here's a couple other videos that you could watch next.